Hello and welcome to this week's headlines. I'm Chwi Lynn. Here are the highlights. First, to update on the Rohingya story from last week, Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama urged Myanmar opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi to do more to help the country's Muslim Rohingya minority amid a worsening migration crisis. Second and related, IGP Tan Sri Khalid Bakar gave reporters a tongue lashing, saying he was tired of answering the same questions concerning the human mass graves in the Perlis-Thailand border. He told the people that he did not know anything until recently, so obviously we should all stop asking questions about the mass graves that have been found in our country and that implicate us in human trafficking. And on Monday, Mathematician and Nobel Prize winner in economics John Nash and his wife Alicia Nash died in a car crash. The couple who inspired the 2001 Oscar-winning film A Beautiful Mind were ejected from a taxi after it lost control while trying to pass another car. And now for the main story of the week, FIFA! So, as a football watcher and supporter, if it's wrong to find this story a gift of delight, then I just don't want to be right. Here's the lowdown. On Wednesday, 9 FIFA officials and 4 executives of sports management companies were arrested on suspicion of receiving bribes totaling $100 million or 365 million ringgit, according to the US Department of Justice. The other charges that are being leveled include racketeering, money laundering, and fraud. The bribery and corruption charges involved more than 550 million ringgit over 21 years. Now, just to complete the picture, of course, these people were arrested at a swanky 5-star hotel in Zurich because, of course, we must all live the lives of Bond villains. Also, if you haven't seen the full press conference yet, I urge you to check it out, if only for killer lines such as Richard Weber, chief of the IRS Criminal Investigation, saying, and I quote, "This really is the World Cup of fraud, and today we are issuing FIFA a red card." Speaking of World Cups, there is no information in the indictment that indicates any games or tournaments themselves were subject to bribery. It actually only extended to hosting, media, and sports marketing rights. This, however, is from the US Department of Justice. Meanwhile, Swiss prosecutors are in the midst of a separate criminal case surrounding the bids for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups in Russia and Qatar. If you recall, when those selections were announced, almost everyone side-eyed it, and further controversy followed as hundreds of migrant workers died in conditions that violated international labor laws and human rights, all in the name of building facilities in blistering heat. Which would never be worthwhile, some could argue, but is made worse by the fact that perhaps it's in service of a World Cup that was potentially bought and not earned. In this latest round of arrests, most of the defendants are from the Confederation of North, Central American and Caribbean Association Football and the South American Football Confederation. But this isn't the first time that FIFA has been implicated in corruption. For example, former FIFA executive Chuck Blazer and 3 other people have already pled guilty to the charges against them. The BBC adds that Blazer actually took part in undercover work for the FBI during its investigation. We also have Jack Warner, who was the head of CONCACAF from 1991 to 2011 and who was one of the 9 FIFA officials arrested in Zurich. Warner resigned after being accused of attempting to buy the votes of Caribbean Federation officials in the 2011 FIFA presidential election. And oh yeah, that seems like a good time to talk about El Presidente. Oh, Sepp Blatter. He of the view that women players should wear tighter shorts and that goal line technology is the devil. He's had the power to say things like that and get heard for the last 17 years because he's been running more or less unchallenged with relationships he's cultivated for many years with members of the 209 nations who get to vote. US Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who so needs to get a shout out here for being a total badass investigator who's been involved with this for years, staunchly refused to engage in questions about Blatter, saying that the investigation was ongoing and she couldn't engage on the status of any one individual. So for Blatter at least, the show will go on for now. But what's next for FIFA? So how now? Well, Blatter is not going to quit, and FIFA will likely soldier on despite growing concerns from sponsors such as Visa and Coca-Cola, and despite also the fears that major sponsors such as a huge sporting company who's remained unnamed, though perhaps I should just do it, are going to be implicated. But the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the IRS are going to soldier on as well, with Kelly T. Curry, acting US Attorney, stating that this is only the beginning, and Loretta Lynch, badass, saying this Department of Justice is determined to end these practices, to root out corruption, and to bring wrongdoers to justice. And hopefully, ultimately, to make the beautiful game truly beautiful and accessible to all, and not one that's going to cost human lives out in the desert just to line the pockets of those who don't need it. Anyway, summary, the story is flippin' amazing. FIFA have been offside for years. They need to be relegated. They need to be sent off pitch. They need to be... I'm on a roll. I could keep going. We need to end this now. And that's it for this week's headlines. Thank you for watching. I'd be remiss here to not point out that if you want more post-game analysis, John Oliver's Last Week Tonight episode on the World Cup and corruption in Sepp Blatter last year is a great watch, so go check that out and have a great weekend. See you next week. Thanks!